The Rings of Power has been a nightmare, from the content we got to reviews to backlash on social media, and a few days ago we heard the showrunners say they were excited for season 2 because it was going to closely follow the canon, which made no sense because they've already strayed so far away from it. But now the creators are admitting they aren't going to listen to audience feedback going into season 2. I have a bunch of things to show off, but before we get into the topic at hand, if you enjoy the content that I create, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Follow me on social media like Twitter or mine so that you can see when my content is posted. And of course, if you do really enjoy the videos and the live streams that I create, please consider becoming a Dark Titan via Patreon for just $1 a month, or support the channel via YouTube memberships. All of the links are in the description, and of course, I do really appreciate all of the support. So this is a Screen Rant article that I wanted to start with. It says LOTR Rings of Power Season 2 won't address fan feedback, the creators say, which of course is ridiculous. The only reason why they can create a show like this is because of the fans of Tolkien's work, the previous movies that Peter Jackson did. You wouldn't have a chance to make the show without LOTR fans, and yet you're dissing us, which is just ridiculous. It says the Lord of the Rings of Power creators J.D. Payne and Patrick McKay explain why Season 2 won't incorporate any feedback from fans. Debuting on Prime Video last month, The Rings of Power chronicles the rise of dark forces in Middle-earth during the Second Age. I've talked about The Rings of Power many times on the channel, and it was extremely disappointing for me. It says the Season 1 finale to the show features a number of exciting revelations, including, spoiler alert, the fact that Halbrand is actually the Dark Lord Sauron himself, and then you have the stranger who is Gandalf. All of these things that to me were not very exciting revelations. The person writing this article clearly is an Amazon shill, and they just wanted to hype up this show as much as possible, so they say it's an exciting revelation even though it's not. It was extremely predictable. It says, though, The Rings of Power has been the subject to intense debate online, with many fans not liking how they have adapted Tolkien's source material. That's the problem, is that they decided to do all of these new original things, and they did so many that it didn't really feel like Tolkien's work. They decided to put in all of these new characters and new storylines and make all of these giant reveals. It just didn't feel very good. It just didn't feel like Tolkien's work. It says, though, in a recent interview with Vulture, the creators discussed their approach to fan feedback heading into the Rings of Power Season 2. J.D. Payne said, "We're certainly listening to the critics and to our audience. You don't want to give any one voice too much weight, but figure out what people are responding to. I don't know if I want to point to any specifics." And then McKay said, "My immediate reaction to that question is no. Not that we aren't paying attention to the response the show is having. I don't know how you could shut it out, but the second season has been written and the storytelling grows and goes in different directions. That is informed by what we learned on season 1 on our own. There are things that seem to really work and others that didn't work as well as we might have hoped. The storytelling will be different next time, not because of the response to the show, but because of the experience of making the show for us." Now, this is extremely worrying because, again, the only reason why they got to create this show was because of the fans, and they should be listening to the fans. They should be listening to people who are criticizing the show and saying, wow, this storyline was really bad, or the timing of everything was really poorly done, so that going into another season, they can take those feedback into consideration and they can make changes and make a better product. The problem is that these people are no ones. They didn't work on anything really before The Rings of Power. They were handed this series probably because Amazon didn't want a well-known director, writers, creators to say, hey, listen, I don't like the direction you're going in. They can push people like J.D. Payne and Patrick McKay around, and that is why they chose them. And these people are not good. They're not good enough at their job. They did not deserve the show in the first place, and now they're doing whatever they want because they're up on their pedestal. They feel high and mighty, like they have, the world at their fingertips. They can do whatever they want with the show, and that is why it is going to fail. That's why people are not going to return for season 2, because you're not taking criticisms into consideration. You're not listening to the feedback that we have provided you. The article also goes on to talk about why the show divided people, and of course they defend the series. They say for as much criticism as the show received, however, The Rings of Power has also garnered a passionate fan base. Considering its massive budget, the show has managed to bring the world of Middle-earth to life in a way that rivals the Lord of the Rings trilogy, which I completely disagree with. The show is not as good as the movies. The series is also evidently drawing heavily from Tolkien's works, in particular his themes regarding the power of hope and the ability of ordinary folk to generate big changes. It remains to be seen how The Rings of Power will evolve in season 2, but it's clear that McKay and Payne very much have their own plan that they're sticking to. And you would think they'd say, hey, we're listening to feedback in season 2 so that people who were critical of the show would watch more of it. And the reason why this is so surprising is because they need all the viewers they can get, since this billion-dollar show did see quite a large dip in rankings. I have talked about this already. But, as this article says, Rings of Power dips in streaming rankings, and this happened only a couple of episodes into the show. So by the end, the rankings probably were much worse than when it started. The Rings of Power had 988 million minutes of viewing time in the US from September 12th to 18th per Nielsen. That's a decline of about 18% from the previous week's 1.2 billion minutes. The series amassed 3.44 billion minutes of viewing over the first 18 days, of course placing it among the top half of Prime Video shows since the advent of Nielsen's streaming rankings. So as you can see, it dropped about 18% in the US only 3 episodes in. We have no clue what it was by the end of the show, but they need all of the viewers they can get, and all they're doing by saying things like this is pushing critics away from the show. I don't have any expectations for season 2. Honestly, I'm not excited for season 2. I don't even think this show deserves a second season, but it is getting one. It's going to be a couple of years before we get it, and I just don't think that this show is going to continue to bring in viewers over those years, and I think it's going to end up being quite a disaster for Amazon. But yeah, they are just absolutely not caring about what we as critics and fans have to say, and they are just openly admitting that they are not going to address fan feedback going into the next season. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed it, please make sure to give it a like, share it, and subscribe to the channel. And of course, if you didn't, make sure to give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I will talk to you all again in the next video really soon.